Well, he just said it. Donald Trump just said live on air during a Fox News town hall that he plans to be a dictator on day one of his presidency. He's going to be a dictator, not for the border, but for himself, so he can hold on to power for the rest of his life, go after people that he doesn't like, and more. Like, folks, I hope the overwhelming majority of Americans can agree that American citizens should not be voting for someone who claims openly that they're going to be a dictator, regardless of the reason. Donald Trump is completely against American ideals. He's completely against what we stand for here, and I hope that even the people who are Republicans can see him saying, I'm going to be a dictator, and say, yeah, that's not for this country. We don't do that here.
All right, guys, so stories like this is exactly why I like Trump, okay? I'm telling you, stories like this are why I like Trump, because Trump understands his strengths and he understands his weaknesses, right? He understands that the more that he trolls the liberal media, the more powerful that he gets, because Trump has this unique effect, right? The more that you attack him, the stronger that he gets. I would actually argue that the mainstream liberal media, they're the ones that are mainly responsible for Trump's skyrocketing in the polls, whether that be the Republican primary or the general election polls, in which he's now the favorite to beat Joe Biden. Okay, and this is one of the main reasons that the mainstream liberal media is sounding off about this possibility that Trump is going to be a dictator, right? He's going to take over his second term and he's going to be Hitler, right? This is literally what they're saying. They're comparing Trump to Hitler, okay? I'm still waiting for them to compare Trump to the Antichrist, right? I think that that's the next one. They're going to say he's the Antichrist, right? They say nothing works against these conservative Christians. We need to call him the Antichrist, right? This is what they'll be calling Trump eventually, right? But what Trump understands that a lot of people don't understand, again, one is his strength, that the more that they attack him, the stronger that he gets. And two, it doesn't matter what you say, okay? It doesn't matter if you deny the accusations from the mainstream liberal media. They're still going to say that you're whatever they have labeled you regardless, right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't help to come out and to deny the labels that they throw at you. They're going to say that you're that anyways, right? And that is why in some situations, it's just best to troll the media, right? Troll the media, because you know that the media is going to continue to cover you, okay, because you're trolling. And basically, it just exposes how ridiculous the media is in the first place in regards to how they are hung up on Trump's every word, right? And how they're going to take anything that Trump says, even when it's clearly a joke, even when he's clearly trolling, right? He's telling you, hey, I'm trolling. They're going to take it and they're going to make the worst out of it regardless. And that is what is happening with the mainstream liberal media and these comments that Trump made last night at Fox News' town hall with Sean Hannity, in which he was asked about the mainstream liberal media freaking out about him being a dictator in his second term. Okay, that's the new narrative that they're pushing right now. The establishment, the Biden administration, they're all on the same page. They're pushing the same thing. Trump's second term is going to be a dictatorship, right? And Trump essentially trolls the liberal media with his answer. And of course, the mainstream liberal media fell for it. And now they're freaking out and wetting their pants. They're pearl clutching over Trump's answer to this question. Take a look.
I want to be very, very clear on this. To be clear, do you in any way have any plans whatsoever, if reelected president, to abuse power, to break the law, to use the government to go after people?
You mean like they're using right now? So, in the history of our country, what's happened to us, again, has never happened before. Over nonsense, over nothing, made up charges. I often say Al Capone, he was one of the greatest of all time, if you like criminals. He was a mob boss, the likes of which Scarface, they call him. And he got indicted once. I got indicted 4 times.
I want to go back to this one issue, though, because the media has been focused on this and attacking you.
Yeah.
Under no circumstances, you are promising America tonight, you would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border, and I want to drill,
That's
drill,
not
drill.
That's not.
No, no.
That's not retribution. I got.
I'm going to be. You know, he keeps. We love this guy. He says, "You're not going to be a dictator, are you?" I said, "No, no, no, other than day one."
It's kind of like that.
Believe him.
We talked about this. Remember the answer we talked about, and Donald Trump doesn't do it. He had previous interview member said, "You didn't take all those documents back to your beach club." "I did, and I had the right to do it." And Hannity kind of droops his head. But the point is, again, he's saying now just explicitly, "I'm going to do a bunch of stuff on day one, and if anybody believes it's going to end in day one, I've got a bridge to sell you across the river here." So this is what we're hearing from Donald Trump more and more, and it's the reason we're hearing more and more from Joe Biden about the dangers of a potential second term.
Well, I mean, Willie, think about it. If any other politician in American history were asked the question, "Are you going to be a dictator?" No. Donald Trump never answered it. He never answered it. And when he said, and I just want, there's a sickness. There is a sickness among, unfortunately, some of our fellow Americans regarding authoritarianism and totalitarianism. They want it. Because, Willie, when he promised that he would be a dictator on day one, he got applause.
Well, and that's
Even
on Fox News, and there's a lot of people watching who are right on board.
Even before he talked about the border, which a majority of Americans would support closing the border today, probably an overwhelming majority, are drilling. By the way, what a stupid thing to say. Drill, drill, drill. What a stupid thing to say. You can tell he doesn't even read the newspapers, and the people applauding that don't even read the newspapers.
Do you have any plans to abuse power, break the law, or go after people? And here's the thing, Van. We timed it. He didn't answer that question for 5 minutes. For 5 minutes, he obfuscated, didn't give a yes or a no. For 5 minutes, and when he finally did answer, the answer was dictator on day one. What do you hear there?
Well, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like the guy at Ellis Island. They say, "Do you advocate supporting overthrowing the government by force or violence?" And he goes, "Violence?" Right? This is a very easy question. It's a simple yes or no question. And there was an opportunity to set the record straight, to tell people, "I do not plan to do this. I plan to follow the law. He didn't do it. There's not a single human being on earth that would take more than 5 seconds to answer a question like that the right way. He couldn't get it right in 5 minutes.
And David,
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that. Again, clips like this is exactly why I think Trump's a genius when it comes to political strategy and playing the media, right? Understanding his strengths, understanding his weaknesses. Trump knows that the more he stays in the news, the more that they talk about him, the stronger that he gets, right? His poll numbers continue to go up because of the overt persecution of him by the government and by the liberal media, which was the point that Trump was making in his answer, right? His answer in which he clearly stated, "Yeah, I would only be a dictator on day one," right? A joking answer. And then he said, "Close the border and drill," right? That's what I would do, right? I would use my dictator powers to do that, right? Again, clearly he's making a joke. What he's saying is that my priorities are going to be closing the border and getting America to drill more, right? Producing more energy. That is what he's saying. And before that answer, he took the time to point out that you're asking me whether or not I'm going to be a dictator, right? Like what the Biden administration is doing right now, like what the Democrats are doing right now. Okay, that's what you're asking me. And then again, he goes on to say, "Yeah, I'm going to be a dictator on day one, and it's going to be for these things." He didn't mention going after his political opponents, right? He didn't say that he was going to do that, right? He talked about his main priorities of his next administration. Now, again, he's trolling in this answer because he knows that it doesn't matter if he comes out here and says, "No, I'm not going to be a dictator, full stop." He knows that they're going to say that he wants to be a dictator regardless of what he says, right? No matter what he says, they're going to say that he wants to be a dictator, okay? Just like when Trump came out here and he disavowed white supremacy 1,000 times during his presidency, they still said that Trump refuses to disavow white supremacy, right? Trump has learned. He's learned that it doesn't make sense to deny the accusations. They're still going to say it, right? They're still going to say it. So you might as well troll them and lean into the accusations while making the point that what you guys are so afraid of me doing, the people in the White House are currently doing right now. Which is so funny because these people who are pearl clutching over Trump clearly trolling, right? They have nothing to say about the main point that Trump has been making every time this topic comes up, which is that the people in the White House, the current government, is the dictatorship. Look at what's going on in Florida with the Democrat primary. They're basically trying to cancel the primary because the Democrats there only put Joe Biden on the ballot. Therefore, by state law, Joe Biden wins by default. They've suppressed a whole state of voters, okay? They're out here canceling elections, okay, in their own primary. The mainstream liberal media is quiet. Ain't got nothing to say about it. This Biden administration has ignored Supreme Court rulings, numerous Supreme Court rulings, okay, during this administration. Mainstream liberal media, quiet. They ain't got nothing to say about it. This is the same administration that tried to force an experimental vaccine into people's arms. Mainstream liberal media ain't got nothing to say about it. This is the same administration that is weaponizing the government to try to silence speech of their political opponents online. Clear violations of the First Amendment. Mainstream liberal media ain't got nothing to say about it. These are all actions that an authoritarian and fascist government would take part in, and the mainstream liberal media is silent on it. They don't talk about it. But again, the main point that Trump is making about how the Biden administration is weaponizing the government, the mainstream liberal, they don't want to talk about it. They just pretend as if there are no possibilities. There's zero chance that the Biden administration is weaponizing the DOJ to go after Trump, and that all of this is coordinated and planned by the Democrat powers that be to try to sway the outcome of the 2024 election. They're trying to pretend like there's literally no possibility of that, right? And this is why when Trump points it out, they never talk about it. They never want to address it. They just pretend as if, oh, well, it's not possible. Biden can't be weaponizing the Justice Department. That is incomprehensible, right? That's not happening, right? That's not happening. When, again, if the media was honest, at the very least, they would ask the question. They would say, well, does Trump have a point? Is Trump being politically persecuted here, right? Is Trump being subjected to charges and indictments that we wouldn't bring against other individuals that have committed similar crimes or alleged crimes, like, I don't know, Hillary, Joe Biden, who's going to get off on his classified document scandal, right? These are the same people that say no one's above the law except Democrats, apparently, right? Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Again, it's so funny to me how they just ignore and they don't want to talk about the main point that Trump has been making, which is that you guys are complaining about the possibility of me being a dictator when the guy in the White House right now is a dictator. He is doing all the things that you're afraid that I'm going to do. And I'm telling you that if I become president, right, on day one, yeah, I'm going to be a dictator, but I'm going to be a dictator when it comes to doing what the American people want the president of the United States to be doing, right, which is to close the border, okay, aka secure the homeland, right? And if that means put the military at the border, that's what we're going to have to do. Again, they would probably say, well, that's the actions of a dictator, right? Could you imagine? If Trump sent the military to the border, they would say, well, he's been a dictator, right? So anything he does, anything he says, they're going to say he's a dictator, right? And Trump knows that. He knows that. And Trump has done this his whole career. He's always leaned into the nonsense from the mainstream liberal media because he knows that it keeps his name in their mouths. And as long as his name is in their mouths, Trump's getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I'm so serious. I think one of the reasons why you're seeing the surge in polls that you're seeing is because the mainstream liberal media, they can't stop talking about the man. Trump was doing his worst when the media was ignoring him the most, right? When they weren't pearl clutching over Trump all day long and Trump wasn't in the news cycle 24/7, his poll numbers were at their worst, okay? And as soon as the raid on Mar-a-Lago happened, oh, it just so happens that Trump poll numbers goes up. Well, why is that? It's because there's been nonstop 24/7 Trump deranged media coverage of this man ever since then, and his poll numbers have done nothing but go up since then. And Trump knows that. It doesn't matter what he says. They're going to say he's a dictator anyways, right? Doesn't matter. That's the reason why Trump took the mugshot and then immediately circulated the mugshot, right? Because he leans into the labels. He leans into the persecution. He leans into the derangement from the media. The more that he's talked about, the more that he's covered, the stronger that he gets, right? You cannot defeat Trump by continuing to talk about him and to attack him. There's nothing that you can attack him with. There's nothing that you can say about him that people haven't already heard. In fact, the more that you attack him, the more it confirms that he is the right guy, right? That he should be in office, especially considering how terrible things are. Considering how terrible things are for people in this country, all the media is focused on is a guy that's not in office instead of the guy that is in office. Tells you everything you need to know about the agenda of the media and who they're actually looking out for. And that's what people are saying. That's why he continues to get stronger. That's why he didn't need to come out here and say yes or no on this answer. Troll. Because it doesn't matter what he says. He can say, I'm not going to be a dictator, and they'll turn around and say, Trump said he's not going to be a dictator, but we know that's not true, right? We know he's lying, okay, for X, Y, and Z reason. That's what they would have said. So you might as well lean into it while at the same time spreading the message. Hey, they're worried about me being a dictator. Those guys that are in office right now are the real dictators. Look how terrible everything is. And they're not focused on them. Again, shows you the agenda of the media, right? Again, Trump plays the media so easily. It is a masterclass. And this is just another example of that, right? People are pearl clutching over what is clearly a joke in trolling, okay? But, I mean, real talk, though. I wouldn't mind if he actually was a dictator on the border, right? If that means securing the border, if unleashing our potential when it comes to energy production in order to try to lower prices, if he has to, take executive action to do that, hey, I'm totally fine with that, right? Be a dictator on those issues. But he said for one day, right? There's only so much a dictator can do in one day. He said one day only. Again, clearly a masterful troll here from Trump. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.